Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pura Vida podcast, or welcome if this is your first time. I am excited about today's episode. This episode, I'm sitting down with the other owner of Pura Vida, and we're talking all about her story today. So, Miki is my business partner, as many of you know. And we're going to explore her path into yoga and into Reiki. Reiki has taken a very front seat into her life ever since she's been part of Pura Vida, and I've watched that happen, and it's been awesome. Before we get started, let me talk a little bit about Pura Vida Wellness Studio. We are in Toledo, Ohio, located right next to Ernest Brew Works, and we strive to make all healing accessible, whether that be yoga, Reiki, sound healing, massage therapy, etc. And we hope that you find your way here because the more the merrier. The only other thing I do want to mention though is we are having a sound healing training in April, and I'm super excited about it. I'm so ready for it. It's April 25th through the 27th. So if you're interested in hosting your own sound baths, having your own private sound sessions with your own clients, I highly recommend you come to this sound training. It's going to be super in depth, and I'm super excited for everyone who is already signed up, and we're gonna be a beautiful community together. So, welcome, Miki.
How's it going?
Good.
Happy Thursday.
Happy, yeah, Thursday.
Came around quick.
Yeah, it did. So, Miki, it's been a journey for us, a very long journey, a very long road. Sometimes one day feels like 10 years.
Yes, it does.
Sometimes one day feels like 1 second. And we have loved every up and down, every ebb and flow. Um, it's not always easy, but here we are.
Well, and it brought us here.
It did. That's very
It
true.
brought all the changes that brought us to where we're at.
That's very true. So, Miki, how about you tell us about your own personal journey into Reiki? Let's start with Reiki.
Reiki was an interesting one. As I said before, things really have to fall into my lap and in front of my face to catch my interest. And I was a part of a mom board that Rebecca Ahern over at Axiom Lux was a part of, and she was my introduction to it. She offered it out of her home at that point, and that was how I first came across it. It freaked me out. I really didn't want a whole lot to do with it. Growing up, my stepmom's family was pagan. And my grandma Fruitsy was very adamant about staying away from any kind of dark energies, dark anything. And Reiki just seemed to kind of leave that door open in a way that I wasn't comfortable with because I didn't really understand what it was that we were doing. And I don't research things on my own in those situations. I make my decision and I'm just like, eh.
I'm
But
the same in that way. When I went to Costa Rica, I did not research anything.
Nope.
I said, there's a city by a beach and there's a school. I'll go there.
Yep. That sounds about right. I mean, if it feels right, it feels right. Why overthink it,
Yep.
But that being in front of me as often as it was, it did end up spiking my interest, and I wound up obviously finding benefit in it for myself. When I actually started considering doing my certification, I never planned on actually working with people outside of the select few that I intended to get my certification for. So ending up where I have wound up with Reiki was very, very unexpected, especially considering I wanted you to be doing the Reiki around here. The fact that I had my certification, that took me a while of dropping the Reiki hint before I realized I could be the one doing it. And that's probably what you were waiting for.
Yep.
But it scared the daylights out of me in the beginning.
Could you speak on that? Like maybe somebody out there wants to do Reiki, wants to maybe not do Reiki, but journey into that path, the Reiki path. Could you speak on like what Reiki is and like what Reiki is to the general public and then what Reiki is to you yourself. And maybe also speak on like if someone out there is scared of that, of like a dark energy, have you experienced any darkness in Reiki? And or if you have, how have you overcome that?
Oh, that was a lot of questions.
Mhm. Let me start with the first one. What is Reiki?
Reiki is energy healing. We are working directly with the spiritual body and the chakras to bring that into balance and to bring that in alignment with your true energy. Um, as a Reiki practitioner, I'm a pipe, I'm a faucet
Mhm.
of that divine energy, um, allowing it to flow from the universe, into the body that I am working with. The objective is to push out those negative energies. The problem is our circumstances don't go away.
Mhm.
So even though that energy gets pushed out, those problems are going to want to reroute. So it's up to us to do the work on in the aftermath and look at what we're actually being shown to look at circumstantially, and change our approach to it so that it doesn't reroute in the same way. Um,
Can you give an example of like a circumstance somebody might be going through that Reiki that would like, could you go through maybe an example of somebody comes and lies on your table, they have like maybe give an example of a problem that they have and how Reiki energy helped to.
a lot of the people that come through are dealing with grief in some way, shape, or form. That is probably the most prevalent
Mhm.
that comes through. And this can take place at any point in time. So this could be recent grief. It could be very deep rooted that you're not even considering, or a type of grief that we aren't considering. But for most people, when they're laying on the table, they're going to have certain circumstances that keep coming to mind because as that energy block is being hit, it's triggering that energy in your body. It's throwing it out into your energy field and it's bringing it into your conscious awareness and causing you to think about it, which is why I tell people in my classes and on the table, if something keeps coming to mind, sit with it because you're being shown something. There's something you're supposed to look at there. Um, Usually in the days after, as you're processing through this, then I tell everybody, give yourself grace.
Mhm.
In the days following, drink a lot of water, help the detox process. But give yourself the room and hold space for yourself to move through those emotions because
Yeah.
it will cause those emotions to surface. You're going to need to deal with them when they come up.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a very that can be a very uncomfortable process, but clearing those energy blockages are is also like a major, at least that's our speaker, Deborah.
Deborah.
She's very um
Loud.
yeah, loud and assertive. But anyways, that can be very uncomfortable and both of us know like going like for me going through my own energy blocks, I literally ended up for almost a year and a half straight being debilitated, completely debilitated. And because when an energy block got released, I had panic attacks for a year and a half straight, and that was not fun or comfortable. And there was multiple times where I thought, am I gonna get through this? Like, is this the end or what's happening, you know? And so while that can be scary, now on the other side of that, it's like, yes, days are hard, but the energy is more balanced in
Yeah.
my body. And I can only thank, Reiki, sound healing, yoga, anything that got the energy moving in my body. Um, so it's pretty cool. Um, what like what is your when you got started with Reiki, like did you experience any specific energy blocks being released or did it just kind of happen over time? Like, did you feel like a specific moment in time that you knew Reiki was the reason why energy blocks got released, or did it just kind of like happen?
My first session, my first session released a block of grief that I didn't know was there. And it was it was funny because that session was so powerful. I did not return for 6 or 7 months, moving through that grief, moving through that entire experience. But it comes through in layers. You know,
Hmm.
Reiki, the one thing that I love about Reiki is you can only release what you're ready to release because your subconscious mind isn't going to let you until it trusts you.
Hmm.
And our subconscious mind doesn't trust us.
Right.
We've proven ourselves unworthy of their trust at this point. So, until our subconscious can trust us with bringing that trauma forward, it isn't brought forward. It's being brought through in these very subtle layers that are much easier to deal with.
Hmm.
Once we get to that bigger block, it can be explosive and it can look like that depending on where it's coming from and how much that integrates into the rest of our world. When we have this root issue, it may be the small thing that took place when we were 3 years old, but the manifestation of that fear, that lack of confidence, whatever it's coming from, looks a million different ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're ready to deal with that root and everything that comes with it, and the whole thing gets ripped out, and we get launched into craziness.
Yep.
Sometimes it's layer by layer and it's happening in a more subtle way. And I think those are the things that on a perception level we're not ready for yet. It has to be layered to bring in the proper perception
Yeah.
before you can even see the root for what it actually is, if
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, and that makes sense. Like the layers and layers of trauma that we deal with over our lifetime, they have to get uncovered. Sometimes one layer could be
Yeah,
like a whole big wave or a tsunami. It's like it's just like the weather. Like some days
yep.
it's very nice out
Some
and
days it's stormy.
yeah, and some days it's stormy, some days it's a tsunami, and some days it's just a storm. And so yeah, that makes sense. Um, so you discovered Reiki at Axiom
Mhm.
Lux. Um, and then you continued your Reiki journey. And do you want to talk about how you started to feel confident enough and or just started to feel like Reiki was going to be more of your path here at Pura Vida?
Because of the things that I'm interested in and the way Reiki played out for me, it really didn't take long before it captured my attention fully as far as what was happening within my own body. For me personally, when I release the energy, I can feel that. I physically feel better. My nervous system feels better. Um, my awareness of my body, of my energy, is incredibly heightened from it. And so on that from that end of things, the fascination just kind of took over and my confidence started to increase, mainly because of how the sessions were going. I mean, that really just fell in trusting myself and saying whatever I was being nagged to no end to say. I respond much faster to those things now, but um, the results were there.
Yeah.
Jada is probably my favorite story out of all of them here, only because she taught me the most. I did not know that dogs had 8 chakras
Yeah.
until I was in the middle of a session with her and it presented itself.
Yeah.
So then I went home to research that. I mean, I feel like every session is teaching me something else about how our spiritual bodies and our physical bodies are interconnected in a very literal way. And
Yeah.
we can actually feel physically our emotional and mental state.
Yeah.
And not just like through nervousness or stress in the torso and the stomach
Right.
and the diaphragm, like, but literally within the body, we can feel this physically.
Hmm.
Um, so the expansion of it really became a much bigger part of my spiritual journey than I expected. Um, but also how it ties in scientifically and is kind of nurturing me on that end of things too has
Yeah.
been really, really fascinating.
Yeah. I had no idea, like when Jada first came in, I had no idea, obviously, that that was going to be such a pivotal moment for you and for the studio, honestly, with Reiki. And like, for those of you listening, Jada is a dog and she comes here for Reiki. And she's been coming here for, gosh, what, 2 years now?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. And it's amazing her transformation story, and she's continuing to heal, continuing to undo those layers that she's been going through. And when you're working with an animal, there's no human prefrontal cortex brain interfering with it. It's just the energy. It's like just the energy.
Jada was my proof and confirmation of the direct connection of the spiritual body and physical body. What happened to her on an anxiety level? Her ability to be out and about, her ability to interact, with other people, with other animals,
Mhm.
in a healthy way. That kind of result you do expect from a Reiki session.
Right.
The physical results in her legs, in her gait, in her shoulders that stem from the Reiki that's been done. Um,
What
that really
exactly
blew.
is wrong with her gait and her shoulders?
She was born with a deformity in her paws,
Uh-huh.
which is why her paws go in
Yeah.
and she's had surgery done on them numerous times with no success. Um, the biggest issue with her gait is because of that deformity, she overcompensated on the right side. So one side was twice the size and her legs, her muscle mass was huge over here, weak over here, and it caused this literal physical imbalance
Hmm.
within her. Um, Dealing with just the energy, we can't do anything about the physical issues.
Right.
All we can deal with is the density of the energy around those problems. But that was apparently enough there from her medical trauma history,
Yeah.
her birth trauma history. Her mom um, rejected her as a puppy and tried to kill her. She was rescued from that scenario and went right into surgeries in a gray concrete room up until Sylvia and Al came along.
Yeah.
um, and they were her saving grace. I mean,
Yeah.
truly. But the density of that energy was substantial enough that when that had was removed from the equation, it allowed her body to balance out in a way that it hasn't been able to. And she is finding balance muscularly,
Yeah.
literally finding that balance within the left and right sides of her body now.
That's so
Um,
awesome.
she's, she will always have some issues
Yeah.
that, can't necessarily be fully resolved. But the difference in that dog and her demeanor and in
Her
everything,
energy.
everything. I
Yeah.
mean, that's been an incredible, very incredible part of my journey with Reiki. Very
Yeah.
incredible part.
That has to be my favorite thing to watch from the inside, from the outside in too, because animals, there's just nothing as Luca gets up. Like, there's nothing more powerful in this world to me than animals,
Or more pure.
or more pure, more innocent, especially dogs, but cats, monkeys, every single animal out there, squirrels, like the animals,
Squirrels.
the animals that we've
ADHD.
ADHD, yeah. Um, yeah, and like, you know, I think animals are just, I think animals themselves are just a pure representation of how we are meant to be in this world. every single animal knows why they're here and what they're doing here, and us humans don't.
And every single animal just wants to get love.
Yep.
That's all they're
And
trying to
every
do.
single animal knows
And play.
that. Yeah, and play. And it's like, it's us humans who have completely complicated that. And, there's lots of history behind that, but um, I mean, obviously we won't get into like going back to Native American times and how that got taken over, but um, yeah, I don't know. That's definitely one, like Jada's story is my most favorite story from the outside in, and it's amazing. So let's move on to humans. Speaking of, how I forget, was your meditation, your meditative rest and Reiki class first, or did you have private sessions first?
Well, I had private sessions first, but I really didn't want to do them. So I had like two openings between like 11 and 1 on Tuesday and on Thursday. But people took them.
Yeah,
So in those moments, but it was needed at that point because I didn't I wasn't confident in what I was doing. I mean, I don't
the
research things the way people expect you to.
Mark.
I like to do things. I want to experience it. I don't want to hear how it affected you. It may not affect me that way. Like I just
Mark
want to
would call
experience
that
it.
ornery. Mark
I
would
know.
call that, and you know why? Because he does it. So Mark, I have to shout out Mark. Oh,
Hi, Mark.
I know, anyways. I hope that didn't ruin anything. Um, Shout out to Mark. Hey, Mark, if you're listening, he would go into these trainings, right? Like for whatever he was going to learn, because he learns everything he possibly can. But say he was going to a cranial sacral training, and he would always just walk in the room, and he'd be like, the teacher would be like, "Oh, it's you again," and because he doesn't necessarily take the exact lessons and apply them. He
Yeah.
just does what he does.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that reminded me of Mark.
And that's how I operate.
Yeah.
I don't I like to experience it and figure it out for myself and what it
Yeah.
is for me. Like it might not look the same for everybody.
Yeah.
And with Reiki, I mean, you see that through the practitioners and how it differs from one to the next and receiving. Um and you see it on the table. Everybody responds differently to
Mhm.
what they're going through and what they're carrying. And so we experience it different. I mean, look at and I know you don't didn't have siblings in the house, but if you take me and my brother and sister and you listen to our stories growing up,
Mhm.
you listen to you'd think you would never guess that we grew up in the same house with the same parents
Right.
because all three of us have completely different takeaway from the same thing. And that's how I approach most things. Like I just want to know what it is for me and how it works for me.
Yeah.
When I try to apply someone else's thoughts
Luca.
or whatever else,
Hey, come here.
you're fine.
Come here. Lay down.
No, it's just Angie.
Hey, why are we barking? Absolutely not.
Oh no, you're fine. You can. Yeah, you go right ahead.
Sit. Come here,
Yes.
Luca. Come. 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 Come.
Right. What was I saying?
Sit down. Relax. Um, I don't remember. Hey, why are we doing this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you put Deanna and Brandon and I in the same room, I mean, you'd never guess that we had the same household, the same parents. It works different for everybody.
Right.
And so that's usually
Yeah, that is how it goes. So from private sessions to what made you decide you wanted to do the meditative rest and Reiki class?
to make it more accessible for the people that can't afford the additional session. They would be able to get, incrementally throughout coming to class each week. They would be able to get about the equivalent of a session throughout the course of the month if they were to come to that class every week. Um, I feel like that is also a really good just approach to it for some people. For those of us that have a lot of trauma, for people that are uncertain, being able to receive it indirectly with just 7 minutes, maybe 8 minutes of direct Reiki is enough to release the day to day
Mhm.
and start working through some of those blocks in a slower paced way. I feel like it's a good approach for people that don't have the time to dedicate to their trauma that maybe it deserves.
Yeah.
And it allows them to do it in a more layered approach, where I feel like with the one on one sessions, that is like you are taking a little bit bigger step. You're opening the door up a little bit bigger for whatever is to come. And you are kind of letting the universe know, yeah, I'm ready for
Yeah.
whatever it is. Where taking the class approach, you're kind of letting the universe know, take it easy on me because I'm hurting, okay?
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
I just need to be able to deal with this, at a slower pace.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think that's a beautiful way to kind of, it's like chipping at the iceberg
Yeah.
a little by little. And so there is opportunity for both approaches. And not to say either approach is right or wrong. It's just whatever the person needs. And that's the beauty. Like that's another way it's accessible. Is just having that little time instead of maybe a whole hour dedicated to just your own
Yeah.
stuff going on. And I think the cool thing about the class is it's collective energy too
Yeah.
that's happening within the room. And so we're all healing. And that's the thing about yoga. Like with yoga, you can literally come to class and lay in shavasana all day and you're the whole class and you're still going to get the benefits of yoga. Maybe not the exact same benefits, but you are going to get some benefits because of the energy in the room.
Yes.
And
And those energy centers being worked by everybody else in the room.
yeah.
And that's what I love about everything that's happening in this building, because it doesn't matter if it's massage or yoga or Reiki or sound, you're working with the energy centers. All of
Hmm.
the work is the same. It's just whether or not you're taking a consciously aware approach of the issues,
Yeah.
or if you're moving through it more physically, because not everything involves thought.
Right.
Not everything that we
Uh,
work through and experience do we actually need to think about and consider. Some
Right.
of it we can just move through,
Right.
and we're meant to
Yeah.
just move through.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's I mean, my gosh, if we had to think about all the things we had to move through, we would be paralyzed.
Oh, yeah,
It's
we'd be in
yeah.
a permanent state of considering.
Yeah. So what have you learned about yourself through teaching, well, through giving Reiki?
Well, I found myself again, I guess. I guess the biggest thing that it taught me is that we are supposed to go back later once we're older and we've gained the wisdom through having the experience. We are meant to go back and look at all the knowledge that we
Mhm.
were originally given and see if we actually agree with it.
Yeah.
The more I heal through the work that we're doing here, the more I'm finding my way back to who I thought I would grow up to be, like who as a kid I would have envisioned myself to become. Um, so it's more taking me back to myself instead of and learning about myself in that way, learning to respect who I was, learning to respect what I already knew and carried with me then.
Hmm.
Reiki seems to provide um, a lot of the same lessons that I'm getting through my kids right now, where I feel like I'm meant to show them how to exist and live in the world. Like they are actually reminding me what life is supposed to look like and what we're supposed to be doing. And I feel like it, works that way with Reiki too. Like it takes us back to our inner child. It takes us back to our authentic self.
Yeah.
We're learning everything about ourselves. We're being brought back to ourselves.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So much sense. And
but we're not adding to, we're uncovering.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the big difference. We're not bringing new things in.
No,
We're uncovering what was already there.
exactly. We're already whole, and what we're doing in Reiki is and or sound healing is just uncovering any blockages to that wholeness that
Yep.
you already are, basically, to put it in simple terms,
Through the nervous system,
through the nervous system.
the inner child.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have a specific person, not obviously don't say their name, but or a specific session that you felt really impacted you or them? Um, like what was your favorite session, whether it be class or private?
I would have to say that my favorite session right now currently would have to be from a class. And I won't use names, but the two will know who I'm speaking of. Um, we talk about the work that we're doing. We talk about how our souls are interconnected, how, they are aware of things that we aren't, that
Yeah.
our bodies, our spiritual bodies and our energies are generating things all the time that we
Mhm.
are both aware of and unaware of. Um, but watching that connection play out literally between two people that had just met, I mean, they attended an event together a couple of days before and wound up in my class that Sunday. And when I was taking the grounding bowl over one, it completely lit up the energy field and spiritual body of the other on the other side of the room. And they actually brought that to me after class. Now, in that moment, I knew what that was. I had experienced it a couple of times prior, to be able to explain what had actually happened in that moment. Um, but that was probably the neatest experience,
Yeah.
and through Reiki and watching it play out that way.
Yeah.
I keep saying over and over and over again, I feel like I'm just like supporting the
Yeah.
Reiki sessions, not facilitating, but just kind of like supporting um the sessions. And that was another one where it was like the energy is going to do what it wants to do. It's going to
Yeah.
get the job done with or without you.
Yeah. That's true.
You just got to hold space for it and
Yeah,
let
be a
it do its
conduit. And
thing.
that's all facilitating is.
Mhm.
And yeah, absolutely. Um,
But it can jump
s-
across the room in no time if it wants
oh
to.
yeah, it's there's no concept of time and space with energy. That's a man-made concept. I mean, there is space, obviously, or else everything would implode on each other. But but time and space as we know it is totally man-made concept, and
Yes.
energy can just like every I love like this with sound. We can't perceive. We can only perceive like I think it's like 30% of atoms and cells, etc., that are around us. So like our cells are vibrating at a frequency slow enough for our eyes to be able to perceive it. So you see my hand right now, that's only because, you know, our eyes can perceive it. And same with our ears, sometimes our ears can't like perceive certain sounds. Like,
Hmm.
doesn't mean the sounds aren't there. It just means they're not being perceived. And so energy, and that's all energy, right? Everything's energy. So that's what I think of when you tell that story. It can just, it doesn't have to, just because we can't see it or perceive it, it doesn't have to like go at the speed that we
Yes.
expect it to.
And it also solidifies that we are all one,
Yeah,
that we are all interconnected and that we are all one, and that space that we see and recognize as this distance doesn't actually exist
right,
within the energy field itself.
right, for sure. So let's wrap up a little bit, but before we do, what do you hope to bring to the community moving forward?
Sunflower House.
Well, first say what do you hope to bring Reiki wise, and
Uh,
then go into that.
I think as far as Reiki goes, my next big step that I want here is for Reiki 1 to be available for whoever, any studio member that wants it. If you have like the basic studio membership or the body, mind, and soul, if you have a studio membership, you are capable of going through Reiki 1 and being able to self-heal. I feel like that is something that everybody should have in their tool belt. It looks different. I mean, when you do
Right.
Reiki on yourself, it is not the same as when you receive Reiki.
Right.
So I think a lot of people don't self-heal because they don't feel like they're getting anywhere, because it doesn't look quite the same. But that is probably my biggest goal for this place with Reiki, is for Reiki 1 to be a part of the membership
That's
for
awesome.
whoever wants it.
That's awesome. And what did you mean by sunflower house?
Oh, getting this accessible healing everywhere, and every place like Pura Vida and anywhere else we can. But I want it to be free and unlimited, like unlimited massages too, and sound and Reiki, like just do whatever you want to do. And
I want that to
that
be
is,
the case.
we just got to get,
Takes time.
we just got to win the lottery.
Yeah. Yep. Universe.
That won't take very long. Come on, universe. Send us the Powerball.
Right. Let's go. Well, Eric plays poker. Come on,
Right?
Eric. No, just kidding.
Where's that big win?
Yeah. Let's go. So to close things out, what advice would you give somebody who's just starting out, maybe just starting their journey with energy healing or yoga, etc.?
Trust yourself.
That's good.
Trust whatever it is you're being drawn to do, and don't overthink it. Just do it.
Yeah, I agree. The universe will catch you.
Yep.
Awesome. Was there any final thoughts or reflections that you want to speak on,
I don't
or
think
anything
so.
we didn't cover?
I think that's everything.
I'm sure you'll be back on the show. Well, thank you everybody for listening to this episode of the Pura Vida podcast, all about Miki's Reiki journey. And also, we're just so grateful that the universe brought us together and that we are able to do what we love to do and spread that to you and just share it with you. And that's really all that this life is made for, really. We complicate it, but it's that simple. Yes, it's maybe not easy all the time, but it is simple. So again, thank you for listening to this episode of the Pura Vida podcast. If you are interested in the sound healing training I have coming up, please reach out to me, please DM me, or go to the link in the description down below. If you want to take a meditative rest and Reiki class with Miki, you can visit our website and go to the class offerings. I'll also put that link in the description down below. If you want to schedule a one-on-one Reiki session with Miki, you can also do that as well.
I'm listed as Michaela on the website.
Yes, Michaela. I know her as Miki. So yes, thank you for that clarification.
They'll be like, there's no Mickey listed.
I know, yeah, it's Michaela. And yeah, follow us on social media, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share this episode with somebody who may be interested in it. It really helps the show get out. And I hope that whoever hears this is inspired to go after the dreams that they love. And here we have Luca making an appearance, but now he's laying down. Okay. Yeah. So listen to the podcast next week as well, and we'll see you then. Namaste.
Happy Thursday.